Here's a book. Yep, it's a book. We can say that. Hello, my name's Bridget. This is a rant review about Zenith. Welcome. Now you might have some questions for me. Namely, 1, Bridget, why would you read Zenith so long after the controversy? That's a good question. Well, I would like to say that I was in possession of a copy of Zenith from BookCon 2018. Usually I have the need to read the books that I own. And I know people are like, oh, you can DNF books, like it's not a bad thing, go for it. If you don't think you're gonna like it, just don't read it and give it away to someone who might enjoy it. Yes, I didn't really think that I would enjoy this book personally based on all of the reviews that I had previously seen. However, I did feel the need to read this to get my own opinions. And since I owned it, I was like, why not? You know, a lot of the reviews I saw, they were right. It wasn't very good. But I read a book now, so I would like to talk about it with you guys and express my own opinions. Some of them are the same, some of them are different from what has been said before. Since I've read the book, I can have my own opinions. I want to say I didn't go into this wanting to hate it. I had the strong idea that I might not like it going into it. That's not to say that I would hate it, because I had hope. I wanted to like it because it's something created by our community. I want to support BookTube, and seeing that BookTubers are making books, that's great. I love it. It's fantastic. I also eventually want to publish a book. So seeing those strides is amazing. That's not to say that all BookTuber books are bad. And I'm not saying anything against the authors or saying that I don't like them, because I think they're fine people, like they can do what they want. I just think this book could have used a bit more editing and it could have been half as long. Yup. Please don't take this the wrong way. If you want to just hate on me for hating this book, please just click off this video. I didn't like a book, so I'm gonna talk about it. If you did love this book, let me know down in the comments why. If you don't know anything about this book, say you're clicking on this video and you have never heard of Zenith before, sorry, I haven't even mentioned the title. It's Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. I have some notes to help me through this because it was a hot second ago that I read it, but I still wanted to make this video. I've been wanting to make this video for a while, and I just never got around to filming it. So here I am, finally got the time. If you haven't heard of Zenith, it's a book that happens in space, and it's an attempt of mixing Throne of Glass and Six of Crows into one book, and failing because they keep trying to add side plots to make it more interesting, but it just diverts the story and it doesn't get anything done. Barely anything happens in this book. The plot just drags on for a while. And before I start, I don't mean to say that it's all bad. I thought the ending was actually getting pretty good. It just took so long to get there. The book could have been half the length, and it would have been way better because not a lot of it would have been repeated. That could be due to the co-authoredness of it, that both of them were repeating things that they had discussed, and in doing that they would repeat a lot of elements of the story, even though someone else had already written it, but they didn't know because like they didn't write that part. I don't know if that's why it was a little rough. Now I know this book has been talked about all over the internet already. People have already made like a bajillion reviews saying Zenith is bad, don't read Zenith, oh my god. I've watched some of those, like some of them are kind of funny, but I read the book because I wanted my own opinion. And so here's my video. I know I am a million years late to the party, but here's my video talking about why I did not enjoy this book. I'm sorry, I'm not topical talking about new books. However, this was a thing that I read and it wasn't very good, so obviously I'm like, I gotta talk about this on my channel because I have all these emotions and where am I supposed to put them but on the internet? So, here we go. So I have 4 categories to get into when talking about this book. I don't want to be holding this for the whole review, so I'm going to put it down now, but you've seen it. This is what it looks like. It's Zenith, okay? That's the book we're talking about. So the things we're going to be talking about are world building, or world building, what they call world building, characters, plot, and bad descriptions. So we're going to start with world building because that's generally kind of the basis of a good story, is the world that the characters are living in, especially when you're considering science fiction. You want a cool, fleshed out world that the characters can live in and it like makes sense, so that when you're following along, you're like, yes, this is like what's happening in the story world. So to start, there's a bunch of random places named that you never know what they're talking about. There's no context and they're just thrown in there to make the world seem fleshed out when it's really not. I listened to this on audiobook, so I'm just opening the book randomly sometimes because I don't have exact page numbers. However, I looked to find this because I remembered it being at the very beginning. And I'll just read to you this paragraph from page 13. It's actually like page 5. Let's just read along together. 5 days ago, the girls had taken on a job to steal a star load of sealed biodrugs from Solera, the capital planet of the Tavina system, and deliver them to the satellite station just outside the planet Tenebris in the neighboring system. Now, what Solera, Tavina, Tenebris are, I have no clue. It's not further discussed. It's not like elaborated on like someone would do. They're just thrown in there to be like, yes, we have a whole world. Look at that. We did it. Not great. There's also a bunch of random descriptions of characteristics that characters have just to flesh out the world, but actually do nothing. So I'm just gonna list off some, like metal cheekbones and webbed feet to make it seem more science fiction. This just bothers me because it's done to make it seem more science fiction, but there's no purpose to any of these things that they added. What? One person has red and white striped eyes. Why? What does that mean? One character also has scales that heat up when she feels strong emotion. These are all fine traits to have. If you have like reasonings behind them, like if the character doesn't know anything about it and you're explaining and you're like, oh, well, she comes from a world where it's all made up of water mostly, so she has webbed feet, so she can travel better. But like, they're all walking on the same space, so it doesn't really make sense why she has webbed feet. Like, why would you have metal cheekbones? In my mind, when she says she has metal cheekbones, I just picture like being able to stick magnets on her cheekbones and just, they would stay there. And that's not what's meant to happen, but just, can you imagine if it was like a refrigerator and you just stuck magnets on her face? I have nothing against adding distinct traits to your characters. It's just, they made it seem like they're just throwing all these things out there, like, oh, let's throw them out there, and like, this person has this, and this person has this. And like, if you're not gonna have a reasoning to why these things are happening, then there's no point of just adding that. Like, make them all just seem like humans. Are they just supposed to look like humans otherwise? Like, does this girl just like have webbed feet and like the rest of her body is just normal? Like, what? For example, in a story that I wrote 2 years ago, I want to say, during NaNoWriMo, I wrote a story about these people who got superpowers. It was inspired by a Tumblr prompt. So they got superpowers based on the thing they were afraid of. So like if someone was afraid of the dark, they could control darkness. If someone was afraid of fire, they could control fire. And so that was kind of the origin of the superpowers that I made for them. It made sense that like that was the thing they feared, so that was the thing that they got their power in. There was some kind of reasoning behind these powers that these characters were getting. So they told something about the characters' like inner self while also just giving them something special about them. These characters, there was nothing. Like when they got to just describing the person having scales, I was like, why? Why does she have scales? Like, what is the purpose of that? Where did that come along in natural selection? I don't know. Also just like randomly at one point, like 50 pages in or something like that, they're just like, oh yes, and we all have comms in our eyes so we can break into everyone else's comm units and look through their eyes. Does anyone else see how messed up that is? You're telling me you could just look through someone else's eyes without permission, just like randomly like, hey, I wonder what so-and-so's up to, let me go check. And then you just look in her eyes and you're like, oh yes, she is showering. So dumb. I don't know the purpose of that being there. It never comes into play later in the story. They never use this ability. They're just like, oh yeah, we can see into each other's eyes. That's just like a thing we can do, you know? And it's so obviously done so that the world, again with this weird world building, the world seems more fleshed out than it is. It seems more sci-fi, like, oh, they have comms in their heads so that they can see into each other's eyes. That's so science fiction, like, oh, the computers are taking over everything. But no, there's no reasoning to why they can do this. Like, it seems like a weird Black Mirror episode, I'm sure. Like that one episode where they saw each other's memories and stuff and they could just project them. That's some weird stuff. However, just randomly being able to see into each other's eyes, not giving any context, like, oh yes, in the year 2050, we gain the ability to see into each other's eyes, and we use it when we're on missions. But they're just like, oh yeah, I'm like, I'm just gonna go look in Yili's eyes for some reason, and I'm like why? And then it just never comes up again. They're just like, oh yeah, that's a thing we can do. And then they just forget about it. Like, what? And a quote that I wrote down, which I felt fit with the world building in my mind, what, like he changed his blood type or something? Honestly, with this weak world building, you never know. He probably could. I wouldn't be surprised if he was randomly able to change his blood type, because they'd just be like, oh yeah, that's a thing he can do. I forgot. The world building is so weak that I could see that just like randomly happening and just being like, that's a thing that his race can do. because they're special in their own way too. So now let's talk about the characters. There's a bunch of characters. I don't really care about any of them, so we're just gonna start talking about them. To start off, there's way too many perspectives in this book. There's at least 6. Sometimes there's just like a random perspective thrown in and it's like, oh yeah, this person, and like, what are they doing? Oh yeah, they're on the ship and it's about to blow up, and boom, there they go. Why did we include that? We just saw this scene from someone else's point of view like 5 seconds ago. What was the point of showing it again from a different character's point of view? I do not know. Some of the main characters are Andy, Lyra, Gilly, Nor, Valen, some other people that I don't care about. Andy! She was the worst! A quote, "Death is my life." Then why do you feel bad about killing people if death is your life? We're gonna get into that real quick now. The Bloody Baroness! Andy is such a contradictory character. That is what bothers me the most about her character, especially since she's supposed to be the main character. So she constantly, throughout the book, kills different people. She's like, oh yes, I am so strong and powerful and I just kill all these people and wow, wow, wow. And then like 5 pages later, she's like, oh my god, I'm so sad. I had to kill that person. Oh, I feel so bad about killing him. Oh no. But like 5 pages ago, she's like, yes, I'm so strong. I can kill people. At points in the novel, she is so hyped and so excited about killing someone. She's like, yes, I'm so strong. I can kill people. I love killing people. And at points, she's like, she hates killing people. And she's being forced to kill people. And it's not her fault that she's doing it. And I'm like, pick a side. If you're gonna make her be a super badass, like she can kill as many people as she wants person, do that. Go for it. But then don't make her feel bad about it like 3 pages later. That defeats the whole purpose of her character being like super cool and able to kill people. If she's just gonna feel bad about it, we're gonna hear her whining about it like 3 seconds later. At one point, it literally describes her as eager to kill. She wants to kill people. But then like pages later, it'll be like, oh my god, I was forced to kill people. Like my repetitiveness, repeating this idea, that's how repetitive she was in the book. It was like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. She doesn't have an opinion. And also at points, she would judge people for killing people. Like she'd be like, oh my god, that person has killed so many people. How dare they? They're such a bad person. And you're like, you just killed like 50 people on that ship that you just blew up. And yet you're judging that guy for killing people? Like you also have killed people. Like you cannot be the one judging here. Like literally you don't have any right if you're gonna do the same thing. You can't just judge someone else. That's like if I were to be like, oh my god, rant reviews are the worst. I can't believe those people who make rant reviews. Like, oh my god. Like they hate on books online and they like make videos talking about how bad they are. And then here I am making a rant review like, oh yes, I hated this book. Oh, it was terrible. Like, I can't do that. That's not something I would be allowed to do. That would be so hypocritical of me. Like, just so that's so hypocritical of Andy to be like, oh my god, how dare they kill people? Like, she has also killed people. That is the whole point. And there was this line where it said, this girl was born to die. Okay, Harry Potter. And I'm not saying only Harry Potter is allowed to have the trope of like someone being born to die. And like, that's their whole sole purpose. Lots of books can have that trope. Obviously, a bunch of different dystopian books had that as their main trope as well. But the way they said it, this girl was born to die, that's exactly how they said it in Harry Potter. Like, you couldn't have phrased it any other way to make yourself seem a little bit unique. Also, throughout the book, she says that she's on the run, she's killed someone, like, this is all her fault, like, she can't go back to her home planet. But then her parents offer for her to stay with them. And she's like, no, I have to go on my ship. I have to go. She refuses and then continues to complain about her life on the run. If you make that decision of being like, I can't go home, you can't just then complain about your life on the road. You can't just be like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm forced into this life. Like, you chose to live on the road. I don't know what your problem is. This is like a minor tidbit, but like it bothered me. Why does Andy fight with a sword when other people fight with guns? You would think that space guns are way more advanced than a sword. And I know this is just to make her seem like Selena Sardopian from Throne of Glass. I loved Throne of Glass. I'm not saying it's a bad book. However, I am saying that they directly copied this character off of Selena from Throne of Glass. She's in space. I don't think she would still be using a sword. I feel like a gun is much more practical, and I don't understand why she doesn't use one. And I know, like, in a lot of different series, like superheroes books and everything, there are characters that use weapons that like don't make sense. Like Green Arrow, he uses arrows, but then everyone around him uses guns. But he's like super well trained and everything. And Selena, I almost called her Selena. Okay, I called her Selena by accident. Whoops. But Andy, she's like probably trained, but like it doesn't make sense, guys. And my main lasting point about Andy is that she never changes or develops as a character throughout the book. She stays the same from start to finish. Like, nothing changes by the end of the novel. I don't understand. This is a mini tirade about Lyra real quick. Exposition, exposition, exposition. All of Lyra's thoughts are just exposition about the story. God, just tell the story. Don't just explain everything about the world that you forgot to add earlier in her thoughts. They're just like, oh yes, and this thing, and this thing, and this thing, and this thing from the past. And I'm like, couldn't you have just like sprinkled this in before? But nope, they just gotta all put it in info dump. Generally, I don't swear. However, when I'm talking about Gilly, I'm just like, but she is this child, and she is a ruthless killer because she's with these killing machines, and she's friends with them, and like she's on the ship with them, and she's a huge fighter, like she does everything. Yet they get upset at her for swearing. They're like, no, don't say a bad word. And she can't say like bastard. She's just killed like a bunch of people. You want to say she's really tough and everything, and yet she can't swear. What? I watched Caleb's video about this book, and he does a great job of summarizing it. Like, you can say like, oh, Hermione doesn't swear and she's really awesome. Yes, but Hermione doesn't continually be like, oh my god, she's so cool and tough and powerful. Like, J.K. Rowling does not force that upon us. She just shows that Hermione's really powerful, and like that's just not a part of her character. And yet for Gilly, she's just like, oh my god, she's so powerful, guys. Like, she's so awesome and cool, and she does all this bad stuff. You can't just say all that and then be like, oh my god, but don't swear. Like, that's dumb. I am Valen Cortez, vengeance will be mine, and that's all I know how to say. That's all I'm gonna say about Valen Cortez, because that's literally all he knows how to say. That is repeated way too many times in his character scenes. I don't care about his character. He continues to say that throughout the whole book, and guess what? He repeats it at the end when he reveals that he's a traitor. Shocker. Bloody Baroness. Again, as I said at the beginning of the character section, there are too many character point of views. In my opinion, if you want to fix that problem, you just choose like 3 and then you like focus on them. Like, I am all here for having multiple characters' point of views in a book. I think it's really cool. It's a good way to show different parts of the story. But if you're just going to repeat different scenes, I don't think that's the way to do it. You gotta just choose a few and take out some, because this book, it's really long and it does not need to be this long. It could be half this length, honestly. Okay, now let's talk about plot. A thing that many others have pointed out, but I found very weird, was that each planet has one leader ruling over them. We can't agree on a leader for our country. And you expect me to believe that we're all just gonna be okay with someone ruling our planet? I can't see it. Another thing is they set up this heist throughout the book, which is why I compared it to Six of Crows. I've heard Six of Crows is an amazing heist novel, even though I have not read it yet. So they set up this heist from the beginning of the book. They're like, okay, we have to go get this person out of prison. And yet then the heist ends like halfway through the novel. Usually heist books, when you set up the heist at the beginning, that is what it's building to. You have all these things that you need to do beforehand, and then at the end, you have got them. You've finished, you've completed the goal, you've got them out of prison. At the end, and then it's like, oh, where do we go from here? Like, you've got your reward at the end. But instead, you get to the heist, and it's just like, oh, yep, we got him out of prison. We're done. Instead of it being at the end, we're halfway through the novel, and I'm like, where are we gonna go from here? There's nowhere to go. End the book, please. But it does not end. Of course not. We find out at one point in the book or another that Andy is on the run because she was in the same spaceship as the girl she was watching over, the princess or whatever of her planet. I don't know. I don't remember. She was watching over this girl, and she was her bodyguard, and she was watching over, and then the plane exploded. The girl died, and so then she was like, oh my god, they're gonna charge me with murder because I was there in the plane when that girl died. It's my fault. Now, I don't know about you, but if I were in a car with someone and then they died because of some crash, I wouldn't say it was my fault. And I know, like, leading up to this, she had been told that she needs to stay inside and she needs to stay protected. But the girl really wanted to go. Like, this was her idea, this princess's idea, to go on the ship. And what is she supposed to say? No, stay in. Like, she's gonna be like, okay, I'll go with you and protect you when we're on the trip. So there's nothing she could have done to stop this event from happening. So I don't understand why she's like, oh my god, they're gonna say I killed her, and like, I'm on the run now, I guess. That whole, she's being charged for murder because she was there when the girl died, did not make sense to me. I did not understand why they charged her with murder, because it was obviously not her fault. It was an accident. Like, she cannot be blamed for this. Even though she was supposed to stay inside, like, that girl can do what she wants. Throughout the book, their ship is described as impenetrable, and it's like, oh my god, like it's made of glass, and like glass castle, am I right? It's made of glass and it's like impenetrable and it's crazy protective and no one can get in. And yet in a matter of pages, a group of people just managed to get in and take over the ship. How does that make sense? I do not know. On that note, why are there only 4 people running this huge ship? They describe the ship as being ginormous at times, and yet there are only 4 people on it? Like, how does that make sense? Like, if it was a ship that sails on water, you need a ton of people to navigate that. So I'm imagining similarly with a spaceship, you would need a ton of people to navigate with a huge ship, and yet she has no one. So I don't know what the logic is here. Why isn't there a bigger crew, like space pirates, on this ship? I don't know. Another thing that happens with the plot is that at the end, this king of the planet, I believe, I don't know, it's all mushing together, but the guy at the end gives control of everything he owns to Andy, who he has met like a week ago, and he's like, yes, you, random girl, you get everything I own. Why was she the choice? He hasn't known her for that long, and then he decides to give everything of his to this random girl. That does not make sense in my book. If I were him, I would not be giving it to her, especially considering how reckless she is and just how terrible she is. Like, she kills a bunch of people and he's just like, you. And you know, for the fun of it, I decided that the last category is bad descriptions, so let's talk about some terrible descriptions they had in this book. The iconic one, Hope is a raging asshole. No, I can understand personifying Hope as kind of a person, because you can like personify emotions, kind of like Inside Out style. However, describing it as a raging asshole, I don't understand the connection. I guess when you think you're really hopeful, like, oh my god, it's gonna happen, and it's like, it turns around. I wouldn't say that's hope. More like fate. Fate tempts you and you're like, ooh, it's gonna be great. And then it's like terrible. Hope, I'd say, is more your fault. I don't know. Her stomach dropped to her toes. This quote really gets to me because I really think I commented on a very similar quote in my Shatter Me Rant review, which linked to up here. If you haven't checked it out, please watch it. It doesn't make it better now that this terrible quote is being reused in this book. What does it mean? Her stomach dropped to her toes. Like, I get your stomach dropped, but like, why are you saying it dropped to your toes? Are you saying like did you curl up into a ball, like your stomach is like here, so you're like this? Doesn't make sense to me. This time it was so bright and so loud that it lit up the skies. What sky? You're in space. There is no sky here. That's literally the whole point of space, is that it's just empty space. As a person currently enrolled in an astronomy class, I feel entitled to say this, that 1, space is space, so there is no sky. The sky here on Earth is because of our atmosphere. And 2, space doesn't get lit up. That's just not a thing that space does. Like, if you look at the sun, that's like lighting up space, I guess, but like they're all like it's just inky blackness, and like you can say there's like a fire in space, but like what? There can't be fire in space. You get my point, is that like something lighting up in space lightens up everything around it. Like, that's just not how space works, okay? Person had a passion for darkness, and Andromeda was the darkest of them all. Okay, I feel like this goes along with the thing that I talked about with Andromeda's character, Andy's character, is that she's a dark person. She's a terrible person. She's killed a lot of people, and yet they want to make her feel bad about it. Like, here they're kind of being like, oh yes, she's so cool, she's so dark, and she's killed a lot of people, and yet she feels bad. Like, you can't just have those. She smiled with all her teeth. So you mean she smiled? What is different from smiling versus smiling with all her teeth? Like, is one and one. Can you see all my teeth? Like, I don't understand the difference between those two. Can't you just say she smiled? Why do you need the clarifier of with all her teeth? Like, that doesn't make sense. Dex, would you do me the favor of removing your head from your neck? Why? Literally, why would anyone say it like that? Do me the favor of removing your head from your neck. So you want him to die. Like, that's obvious, but why would you just say that to someone? It doesn't make sense. That's another thing. They talk very formally in this book. There aren't a lot of contractions, which I just used a contraction, but there aren't a lot of them in it. It's as if they're robots talking to each other, and they've never had a real conversation like humans before, which of course like humans don't exist in this world, but you know what I mean. Like you and I would talk to each other. I'd be like, hey, what's up? And you'd be like, hey, not much. How about you? Like, what's going on? Like, we just use contractions, but they're like, no, we can't use contractions. That's too crazy. But like, they're best friends. Like, they would use contractions. It just is how language works to make it casual between friends. They're not like writing an essay where you can't use contractions. I don't know. It really bothered me how formal they were. Steady, not fast or slow.
As an adjective, it means regular, even, and continuous in development, frequency, or intensity.
Steady means just like even keel, like not like it's in between. Like it's just like steady is like it's going on. Like, you don't need to clarify of not fast or slow. You can just be like it's going steady. That's not my name. My name is the Bloody Baroness, and this is what I added personally. And it sucks. Comes full circle with what we're talking about is that she just insists on the mantra that she is the Bloody Baroness. However, she's so conflicting that she doesn't really show us that. And it's more of them telling us, oh, she's the Bloody Baroness. She's really cool. She's a killer. She does all this stuff. She's so strong. It's them telling us that stuff rather than us seeing it for ourselves. We don't need you telling us 50 times that she is a bloodthirsty killer. I would rather see her fight and be merciless. Show, not tell. That's a basic thing that you learn in creative writing. As a person who's taken several creative writing classes, I know that. I would hope that they would know that as authors, but apparently they don't. So that's interesting. Thought the ending had some promise. Maybe I'll read the next book. So yes, those are my opinions on Zenith by Sasha Ellsberg and Lindsay Cummings. I did not like it very much, but the end had some promise. I rated it a 1.5 out of 5 stars, I believe. Editing Bridget, check me on that.
That's accurate, but on Goodreads it says 2 because I rounded up because they don't have half stars. Goodreads get half stars.
So I wasn't really a fan of it. However, like the ending has some promise. Like I don't know. Would I read the second book? Maybe. It's a duology, right? So like I only have one book left. I didn't buy this book, but I could buy the second one if all of you would like to see me review the second book, because honestly I haven't seen that many people read the second book. I remember seeing a lot of reviews about book 1, but I haven't seen a lot of reviews about book 2. Maybe that's because no one wants to read it. Maybe it's better than this one. We can hope that they learned something from writing this one and then seeing all the negative reviews. Maybe they made the second one way better. You never know. So I wasn't a big fan of Zenith. Thank you all so much for making it to the end of this video. If you enjoyed watching this video of me ranting about this book and how not good it was, please give this video a big thumbs up so I know that I should make more of these. And please subscribe to my channel for when I do eventually make more of these videos talking about books, because that is generally what I do on my channel. Comment down below what you think about the whole Zenith controversy. I know I am 10 billion years late, but like, we can still talk about it. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be up very soon, so I'll see you guys then. Okay, bye!